Hi there. I'm Tom Field. I'm Senior Vice President of Editorial with Information Security Media Group. Topic today is modern MDR. It is my privilege to welcome to the virtual studio two guests. We have Niloo Razi Howe, Executive Chair of Pondurance, and she's joined by Ron Pelletier, who's the founder and Chief Customer Officer with Pondurance. Niloo, Ron, thank you so much for taking time to be here with me today.
Tom, thank you so much for inviting us.
Indeed,
and it's always
thank you.
bucket list to be with Ron and talking about
Absolutely
cyber topics,
mutual.
sharing his expertise.
Well, Niloo, Ron, let's start here. Niloo, how about if I toss this question to you first, and Ron, I'd welcome your commentary. We continue to see confusion in the marketplace, and lots of cybersecurity is adding managed detection and response capabilities to their list of services, MDR. So talk first, why are we seeing this and what's driving this growth in the market?
Thank you. That's a great way to start this conversation, Tom. What's driving the growth in terms of managed security, managed detection and response is the fact that that every organization now is on the front line, possibly receiving attacks and intrusions from all sorts of adversaries. And so the need to increase cybersecurity sophistication has grown for every organization, regardless of size, but not everyone can afford to hire their own cyber professional teams and make decisions about all the different, the security architecture of the products that they need to have. This is where managed detection and response comes in. You have a company that essentially provides the platform for securing the enterprise. The confusion comes from the fact that there's a lot of different ways of doing that. And a lot of companies, some have products, some don't have products. They still call themselves managed detection and response. So there's a little bit of confusion in the space, but there's a real need for the ability to have a cybersecurity professional partner with organizations to provide the right security architecture.
Yeah, and I'll add that, as the threat landscape changes, the need to have a more dynamic level of defense becomes paramount. As we have attackers that are evolving, it used to be that even say 5-10 years back, it was mostly companies that housed sensitive data, right? Financial data, other privacy related data were most at risk because that was really the goal of a bad actor, was to pilfer that data and try to possibly resell it in some way. Well, now we have the threat evolving where attackers are very much monetizing efforts in different ways. Being able to evoke a ransom payment, from companies. And so it doesn't matter if you're a manufacturing company, a small nonprofit organization, or a legacy financial services company. Now this is a risk for you. And so the way the solutions have evolved, it used to be too that prevention. That was the big sexy word just a few years ago. Prevention, everything's prevention. Let's stop everything. The problem with that is that it stopped a lot of the legitimate traffic and it tended to be tuned down, which then let a lot more through than was anticipated or expected. And so you put yourself right back at risk. And so being able to tune it in a level where we need the human element. We need to make sure we switch this to a dynamic level of defense and detection so we can respond, right? The incident may be occurring, but if we can respond and then stop it before it becomes a breach situation, then the company's better off than taking a chance and just having technology as the stopgap.
Ron, you used the word evolution a couple of times. How specifically has MDR evolved over the past few years?
Yeah, so I think it's still new, right? I mean, it's been evolving. I think that, and Niloo alluded to this too. A lot of organizations, it's one of those if you ask for it, we will come, or if you build it, we will come. Those sorts of things. So companies are putting MDR in their window, right, to say, hey, we do this, and so. But what's truly happened with the evolution of MDR is that it's not a myopic focus. It's not just something that's going to stop and prevent, but it's going to look at different portions of entryway into the network. Everything from a gateway system to the individual person, right, and all of the hosts in between. So looking at things, and this is the way Pondurance, even early on in 2017, we set it up this way. We want to have a broad spectrum of high fidelity monitoring, capabilities. So looking at the network, all of the traffic coming in and out of the network, and scanning that, looking for certain attributes, everything that's moving sideways, east and west. So the lateral movements, coupled with, let's have something at the host that does have a strong prevent capability, but we're not just simply relying on prevent. So it's really a larger surface area that we're looking to match the surface attack area that's grown from a customer standpoint.
Niloo, with so many technologies and services available now, how do the mid-sized organizations in particular get started with evaluating the MDR option that's right for them? And of course, Ron, I'd welcome your perspective also.
Yeah, so security is a journey for every organization, and you have to pick the right partner, a partner that understands where your starting point is, understands the risk that you have as an organization, the risk that your industry has as an organization, that understands your architecture and can provide the right solution for that particular architecture, and then has the people in place to help you on that security sophistication journey. And the thing about mid-sized organizations, we used to think of the market as small, medium, and large, but that's really not exactly the right way to think about it from a security perspective. It's really about the sophistication level of the organization. You can have very, very large organizations that aren't sophisticated, and very small financial services companies that are hugely sophisticated. The thing is that they all represent a very attractive target for someone. And so picking that right partner, knowing that it's someone that'll be there on that journey with you and help you move up the sophistication curve is really important. And I would say, talking to, getting references and understanding how they've worked with other customers is incredibly important. And there's always vertical specific issues that companies face. So do they really understand the particular vertical that you play in?
Yeah, there's one thing I've learned about this business over, a couple of decades now, is that security is very much a trust business, right? You want to make sure you're in the trenches with somebody that you trust can be your partner. Now, there's good and bad in that, and I won't mean the bad in a sense of it's not good. It just beware. Right? Some companies want to continue the operation with the name or organization with whom they might be familiar, meaning this company does the management of my systems, right? And they say they do security. So now, am I going to partner with them to do this? The simple answer is yes, because I trust what they do. And this may not be their forte. It may not be a heavy or deep competency, but they might tend to align themselves with that. In some cases, that can be great. Others, you just have to beware. But that partnership is what's key. You can't draw silos. We can't sit on like Pondurance. So we focus on security. That's all we do. We don't manage systems, but we work very closely with partner organizations to our customers, right? So that we have a seat at the table. The worst thing we can do is create a silo where we're just kicking stuff over the wall and saying, hey, deal with this. No, we're involved, right? We're an extension of their team. But we're not there to displace their team. We're not there to take over. And I love what Niloo said about some of the small, medium business and large businesses. It really depends on the sophistication. But a sophisticated organization might have some fear that, hey, you're going to get rid of my team, or you're going to displace me, or try to make me look bad. Well, that's not the case, and that can't be the case. It has to be, we're all in this together, right? We're doing this together. We may have a piece of the pie, a puzzle, if you will, and the other part of the organization may have the other. But if we can collaborate and making sure that we're putting the puzzle together, then that creates the best solution for any organization, big, small, or otherwise.
Well, let's talk about the R, response. Do organizations understand what they're getting in the way of response when they sign on with a cybersecurity partner? And of course, Niloo, I'd love for you to weigh in also.
Yeah, great question. I think that do they know what they're getting depends on what's presented to them. If that's not addressed up front in the contract, that, hey, response, right, is a big element of MDR, because again, the goal is prevention, or at least reducing the level of likelihood through other means, right? And this is where consulting comes into play as well. But the point is that at some point you may have to say there's something going on and we need to deal with it. Well, how do you deal with it, right? The last thing you want to do is say, well, we need to get another party involved because maybe the organization you're working with doesn't have the skill sets to provide a deep level of forensics capability, or we can stop here, we don't know anything else or what to do, so let's bring in another party. You want to have the same continuity, right? And so being able to have all of those competencies and saying, here are the threshold, if this happens, then this is who we get involved. So building the not only the team with those competencies, but the response plans, right? Getting people involved so everyone knows along the way who's doing what at certain thresholds. That needs to be discussed and understood up front, because the response is I'd say one of the most important, of all aspects, because sooner or later that's going to be the position you're in where, yes, we have to now respond. And so very, very important.
So I think you identified one of the critical issues, which is it's really hard to tell if you have the right cyber partner or not, unless something goes really, really wrong. And so this is where it's important to look at the team that's in place, look at the background and experience of the team that's in place. How long have they been? Do they understand, again, do they understand your vertical? Are there references out there? Because at the end of the day, Ron is absolutely right. This is a team sport. Everyone has to be rowing in the same direction, and it's hard. We have adversaries coming after us on a minute by minute basis, and we've got to get everything right. So picking the right partners sometimes feels like voodoo magic, but it's really not. There's phenomenal folks the companies have been around, the executives are experienced, they've done this before, and like I said, they've got the experience and background to prove it.
So we typically see two barriers to adoption. One is fear that organizations are going to lose control and access, and the other is certainly concerns about cost. So Niloo, you first. Ron, shed some light on those barriers and if there are ways that customers can meaningfully overcome those.
So this is actually the beauty of MDR, is that neither one of those things is actually true. You don't lose control over your IT infrastructure, over any controls, and you actually work with the team to figure out exactly the right level of control that you want to have in place. And the second thing is an MDR solution allows you to very efficiently upscale your security sophistication without having to buy all the tools yourself, buy all the expertise, have to stay ahead of the game with respect to the threats. And put in place the agility and the speed and dynamism that's required today in the cybersecurity industry. So that's actually why this market came into being, is to address exactly the issues that you just raised.
Yeah, and there's another element too, certainly cost, control, access, but time, right? Time is money, but being able to, what's it going to take? What's the commitment from my organization to get this up and running? What are you going to supply? What do I need to supply? Again, it's not just plugging in something and saying, is it working? It's going to take a lot of collaboration and some tuning, to make sure we're looking at the right things, to make sure that we can level set certain things of like traffic, and what we're seeing, and importantly too, and this is where we stand out with what we provide to our clients, is you don't lose visibility on the data. You're not just getting what we want you to see. You have the ability to get to the raw data, and you can make data from data just as our analysts do. So that's really that true, integration where if the organization does have maybe an expert, a security analyst, they can get in there too. And with the knowledge that they have of their own organization, some of the traffic, coupling with or working with one of our analysts, they may put something together looking at the raw data, and maybe there's not a use case that's built. Maybe there's something that needs to be developed on the fly. So that raw data access is key. And then being able to port the data out, should you feel, we need to move something out to a different direction or with someone else. It's your data. You should be able to get it to it, whenever you want to.
Ron, as the Chief Customer Officer, you are perfect to answer this last question, which is this. As prospective customers go looking for MDR providers? What are the key questions they need to be asking?
So the key questions, I think certainly are going to be, how long have you been operating this business? What credentials do you have, to be able to show this, whether it's customer testimonials, and just overall methodology, right? Being able to know inside and out the solution that we are presenting, to you really says a lot about, how we're going to, be able to stand by, what we do. So the customer needs to be understanding all along the way, how did you get into this space? How have you evolved as an organization, and where are you going? Not just, are you going to stay with me for a while and then tailor off and say, well, as people quit, we're going to not continue this service line. What's the vision that you have, and how are you staying on the cutting edge of threats to make sure that we're going to continue to be protected? Because our business will change. The threat landscape will change. Are you staying in tune with it? Do you have threat analytics capabilities that are not just based on what the systems are saying, but what about what the world is saying? The whole geopolitical situation, how does that affect me? So if you don't feel like you can get that level of skill and intelligence and overall competency from your provider, that needs to be called out right away. So very, very key. That's a key question. And making sure that do you stand by what you do. Now, we can never say that when you have us in place, you're never going to have a breach, right? That's just not something that anybody, can ever say, because, if you think about the extended network, you might be fine. You may have this key service provider, however, that's not so fine, and they may introduce, an issue. So how are you as my provider going to deal with that? And we have dealt with that situations. And so it can't just be, well, we fit in this box. We're going to stay in this box, and anything outside this box, good luck. There's a slot machine, you can put another quarter in, and maybe then we'll help you. There has to be, can you help me when I need that help the most? Those are some of the things. So qualifications: have you been there, done that? Where are you going, and what happens when we're in the thick of it?
Well
Yeah, and
said.
I would say that resilience is a huge goal here. As Ron said, you're not going to be able to prevent every attack, but you want to make sure that the team has the right background experience, playbooks, response teams, and knows what to do in that moment when someone gets through for whatever reason. I mean, we've seen supply chain threats really on the rise. And as Ron said, they may come through a third-party vendor. They may come from the inside. So having that bench strength and the experience to have been through this, and again, are they going to partner with you throughout your journey is really important.
Very good. Niloo, Ron, thank you so much for your time and insight today. Very grateful.
Thank you, Tom.
Again, the topic is in modern MDR. You've just heard from Niloo Razi Howe, Executive Chair, and Ron Pelletier, Founder and Chief Customer Officer with Pondurance. For Information Security Media Group, I'm Tom Field. Thank you for giving us your time and attention today.